1-0 it finishes, having known that Villa had got the win in their game before them. Just very crucial for them to get all 3 points today. And you see how things are looking right now. Obviously, Manchester City are going to be in FA Cup final action this weekend, but it is Chelsea and Villa level in 4th and 5th, respectively, on 66 points. Down at the bottom end of the table, this is how things are looking. Manchester United down in 16th spot.
I mean, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, at least there's somebody who's worse than them. We'll get to them in a minute, though. Let's start with you, if we can, then, Frank Leboeuf. That was a really important 3 points for Chelsea.
Yeah, precious ones, I have to say. That the 3 points were crucial because the Villains won at the same time. And so in the race of the best top 5, Chelsea is still into that race. But what a poor game, quality-wise. I mean, the Blues stayed in the dressing room the first 15-20 minutes, I have to say. Manchester United were better, but little by little, and especially after Reece James made that beautiful volley on the post, Chelsea suddenly woke up and started to play better than Manchester United. But I have to say, I saw so many mistakes. I don't know what they were like, very shy, or I don't know, not into the game. But they won. They won against a poor Manchester United overall, and they deserve the 3 points. And this all matters right now because it's a race. You don't care, I would say, now about the way you play as long as you get the points. And this is what Chelsea did today.
You didn't know. If you're watching the game and you hadn't looked at a league table, you couldn't tell for long periods who was going for the sort of 4th, 5th spot and who was languishing just above the relegation zone. You couldn't really tell. And there was another interesting stat from Peter Drury on the NBC comms. I don't know if you heard this. Manchester United, since January, have not beaten a team that are going to be playing in the Premier League next year. The only teams they've beaten since January are Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich. They have not beaten a team that's going to be playing Premier League football next year since January. And they're in the Europa League final. I mean, how bad is this? How bad is that? They've only beaten the 3 cannon fodder teams at the bottom. I mean, should Ruben Amorim and Ange Postecoglou even be allowed to go to this final in Bilbao? They should be banned. The number 2 should be taking over. I mean, honestly. And I'll give Amorim some due. And I know we're going to maybe get to Tottenham in a bit, and hopefully not for too long. Ruben Amorim has been there a shorter period of time than Ange Postecoglou. He's been in there now almost 2 years. It is unfathomable in my mind that whether Tottenham Hotspur win the Europa League or not, that Ange Postecoglou, who did play a weakened team today, there was 2 different mindsets going into this game. United played a strong team, or strongish team, which is a little surprising, and unsurprising, I think Postecoglou played a weakened team. So there was 2 different mindsets. But it's unthinkable for me that Tottenham Hotspur can finish 17th in the Premier League, whether they win the Europa League or not, and this manager survives. I can't see how your body of work over 38 games, and the body of work is pointing to 17th, is saying, I'm going to give you 100 million, 150 in the summer, whatever it is, to spend. I don't care if they beat Man United 4-0 in Bilbao. There's a big decision to come, which I don't think there is for Man United as much. As much
as there is. It's interesting that you mentioned those 2 different approaches, with Postecoglou resting players and Ruben Amorim playing players in the hope that they get in that momentum going into the final. But if you're losing, does that affect your mindset in any way going into a final?
The only reason why I don't think it does is because they've lost so many games. So I don't think the result today for them moves the needle too much. Look, I think the only player today for me that deserves any credit from the game is Ahmad. I think he was the only one that really tried to create something. But this is the only game, I think, of the season that you can kind of give Manchester United a bye because of the magnitude of the game next week. Obviously, the rest of the games this season, they're going to come into their own questions. But this game, I think, we can let them off a little bit only because they have to go and win next week now. But yes, overall, the club is in a real pivotal moment, and then this is the biggest week of of Man United's history for quite a while, I would say.
Delight for Unai Emery. It's been a strong finish to the season so far for him. 24 points since the start of March. They've won 8, they've lost 1. They go fourth in what could be a crucial 3 points for them as well in their top 5 hopes as well. A big boost. But of course, we will continue the conversation about Tottenham Hotspur right now. And Frank's smiling. Why would that be?
I don't know, because I was thinking that the one who's going to win the Europa League is going to be the one who's going to be who's going to go into trouble, because it's going to be because that win is going to change everything. It's going to be qualified for the Champions League, where you don't have the team for that. So you will have to spend money where you're not ready to build anything, and at least the one who's going to lose is going to kick the coach out, some players out, and you can rebuild something. But it's like Manchester United last season, and I think Craig alluded it, about the FA Cup win, where, as I always say, it's the tree who hides the forest, because you don't see the amount of work you have to do. You just see the trophy, the silverware, and you think you're good. No, you're not good enough. And the one's going to win the Europa League is going to be under trouble, that's for sure. And Spurs, come on. On top of it, they had the B team. Well, the good thing that Son came back, but I saw 10 minutes of Spurs, then I saw 80 minutes of not even a championship team. That's awful. You see nothing. So yes, Aston Villa were much better, but you see no structures. You see nothing. That is the worst of the worst that I've seen in Spurs. And I've got some friends that are Spurs fans. I think they must cry every game they watch that team playing. There is no faith, there is no spirit, there is no stamina, and of course, there is no quality. That's appalling to see that team in the Europa League final. They have to change that. They really have to put the Champions League worst team back to the Europa League, because otherwise that cup is not a good cup.
So you talk about the different approaches and making all those changes, but can you also see this as a potential missed opportunity to at least climb a few spots in the table and not be finishing in 17th spots?
Yeah.
But that doesn't really even matter anymore.
They might have lost anyway. I mean, I was looking at one of these sides going to be in the Champions League, and Aston Villa may not. And this is Aston Villa, who are a much better side. I know this is the rules. Much better side, and who were competitive in the Champions League. Got to the quarter-final, could have been in the semi, but for the missed chances against arguably the best team in the competition now, PSG. And so it is, let's be honest. UEFA and FIFA have their head up their backsides. All they do is dilute the game, make stupid decisions, and don't even start me on the Club World Cup. But this is where we are. This is where we are. And one of these two duffers will be in the Champions League next year. Really, that's, but it is what it is. And if you say to me now, who's going to win this final in Bilbao, I have absolutely not a Scooby-Doo. I've no idea. Because you have no idea what team is going to turn up. Ange Postecoglou does not, and Ruben Amorim does not. They don't know. They just don't know. And if they don't know, how the hell does anybody else know? And I give them their due for getting there. But what does that tell you about the Europa League? Huh? That these two embarrassments are in the final. It beggars belief. But, I bet it'll be a cracking final, because they're just two teams that I don't think even know what they're doing half the time.
And nowhere near the top 5 race, which is what we do need to talk about as we take a look at the odds for this, given the fact that we saw wins for both Chelsea and Aston Villa today. This is how things shape up when it comes to the odds for that top 5. I know Villa was something you'd picked out as well, Kieran, in the fact that they've picked up that form of late. As Craig mentioned, and you said it earlier yourself, they did well in the Champions League themselves. They've just got Manchester United to take on next, after the Europa League final.
Out of all the teams left that are fighting for those spots, especially after today's result, you have to fancy Aston Villa. I think whatever state Man United are in after the game next week, It looks likely that Aston Villa should get a result there.
City are under pressure now, are they not?
They are a bit.
How does it feel when people have played before you and you know then what you have to do and you have to get those wins?
I always preferred to play early, and when I was at Celtic, for example, and we were going for the title neck and neck with Rangers, second half of the season, one of us would play on a Saturday and one would play on a Sunday for TV purposes. And I much prefer to play on the Saturday and get it out of the way and get the 3 points, hopefully, and put the pressure back on them. So it's a bit like when people say, what would you rather have, the points in the bag or the games in hand? You'd have the points in the bag all day, every day, because you've been there, you've rolled your sleeves up, you've done it. So I think City will probably do it, particularly because they're at home against Bournemouth, I think. Are they? I don't know. Didn't look. Didn't matter. I think they will probably do it, but it just puts a little bit more pressure on, or a lot more pressure on.
The pressure's on, but you think they're going to do it?
They should do it. I mean, because, Fulham's season, I think, is kind of tailing off a little bit. Bournemouth too.
Does the outcome of the FA Cup final change anything for City if they win or lose it?
No, for them it's about getting in this Champions League, because we still don't know what's going to happen. This crazy thing that's still rolling on with them and the charges, which is just absolutely bonkers. It's dragging on so long, but it's the Champions League for them to both attract and keep those players that are the top players. And so the FA Cup would be obviously great for them in terms of at least something on top of the cake, but they really have to do the business with these 2 games, because if they were to finish in 6th spot, that is just a massive blow for this club and for this manager.
Okay, another big game coming up this weekend in the Premier League. Newcastle taking on Arsenal at the Emirates as well. We've asked for the predictions from the panel as to what will happen as we take a look at the odds for you with these 2 sides facing off. When it comes to Newcastle trying to get the wins at Arsenal's home, it's not been easy of late. However, this season they have had success against Arsenal in both competitions and in the reverse fixtures. And that must have been in the mind of maybe myself, Kieran and Craig when we went for a draw. However, Frank Leboeuf is going for a big win for Arsenal. 3-0, Frank.
Love it, Frank.
Yeah, Kieran, I'm so disappointed. You don't. I didn't know you hated the Gunners, but whatever. No, I don't know. According to the game that I saw against Chelsea and the fact that at 11 against 10, Newcastle at home couldn't do anything the second half of the game, and I saw lately some games where I think they were quite tired at the end of the game, and I think the Gunners, they want to give a proper last game to the fans at the Emirates. And don't forget the last game that Arsenal and Newcastle played against each other was a cup game, and Newcastle won away from home. So it's kind of a revenge. I think Mikel Arteta will make sure that the player will be spot on, ready to give a very good entertainment for the fans for the last time. And I don't rely on Newcastle after what I saw against Chelsea last week. So it's why I put a 3-0, because we know that Newcastle can collapse. And we saw that, I think, against Aston Villa, where they lost 4-1. And they can do that in one game, like not being the Magpies that we know.
Why haven't you got your whole team winning it?
Do you know, I just feel that Eddie Howe and this Newcastle side, they love these types of games. They love these types of games. They love chasing someone's tail, causing an upset. I can just imagine, they've got that striker that Arsenal so desperately need. He loves playing against Arsenal. We haven't scored against them this season in 3 games. Not only have we not won, we haven't scored against them. And
Well, you're going for
I'm a little
2-2.
bit worried. I've gone 2-2, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We just said you haven't scored against them.
But yeah, no, I just think that it's going to be a tough ask because, Newcastle, I can imagine Eddie Howe really relishing this game. A 2nd place finish, Carling Cup win, that looks great on his resume.
Carabao Cup.
Carabao Cup, sorry.
What did you say?
Carling Cup. Showing my age there,
Once upon a time.
Are you excited as Kay was last week when she asked me about Arsenal finished 2nd and 3rd?
Yeah, do you care? Because Craig said it doesn't matter. Does it matter?
Do you know why I put 0-0 down?
I think psychologically it did. I've been there too many times.
Seconds, thirds, fourth.
Yes, coming down to those last games. And I think psychologically, Arteta won't want to finish outside of second place. I think he won't want this season to look any uglier than it needs to look, given how things have gone. I think, if they finish second, he can ride it off and go again next season. I think maybe a few more question marks are asked if he finishes third.
You can imagine Arteta going round with that mindset, which I would agree with. This guy piping on and some of the players just going, Jesus, is this guy going to shut up?
He's going to tell them they were the best in the competition.
Because, it's kind of that point of the season. There is a bit to play for Arsenal, but it's nothing tangible, really, is it?
Yeah, there's very little.
Newcastle is,
exactly.
Yeah,
there's very
I'm a
little
bit like
for
Arsenal in a sense where I'm probably slightly more deflated than Arsenal at the moment. And that's why I went for a 0-0, because I just thought, I'm losing the will to live here with this top five. So 0-0, Newcastle pushing it. Arsenal want to finish strongly, but subconsciously, they kind of blew it, didn't they? They're out of everything. And
can you give us another week of top five talk? Can you find it within yourself?
I was half hoping when I came back from Spain, you'd knocked it on the head. And I was uber disappointed to hear that we're still piping on about it.
Yes.
To be quite frank with you.
Don't you worry.
I mean, I was quite happy to do the Barca celebrations for 45 minutes and say goodbye. No highlights, nothing.
No, that's not going to happen today. Make sure to be with us this weekend when we find out how this all plays out, and make sure to keep up to date with all the biggest stories from the world of football over on our YouTube channel, ESPN FC.